Build diversity is a very important aspect to any hunting game. It's important that through the use of skills, weapon types, and playstyles, that everybody kind of has what they feel like is a perfect fit for them. Wild Hearts does an okay job at this, specifically through the weapons. Every single one feels extremely unique and very fun to play. And some of them kind of have a little bit of bleed over into one another, to where if you like Hammer, you might also like Nadachi, or if you like Clawblade, you would also like Bladed Wagasa, which is super fun and super cool and can kind of give people more things to play with, right? The one thing that I feel like Wild Hearts lacks immensely in is the actual skills through both weapons and armor. If you look at a raw damage Clawblade build and then look at a raw damage Bladed Wagasa build, you're really not going to get much difference. They're going to go the same paths in terms of armor as well as in terms of the actual weapon path itself, which kind of sucks. Sure, the weapon skills themselves might be different by a little bit, but that's just because the Bladed Wagasa has certain parry ones that are nice, whereas the Clawblade has certain claw ones, which are nice. And if you were to take just the generic weapon skills, they end up being the same. So that got me thinking, what can we do to make the skills better, or what can be changed to make them more usable, to make weapon builds more diverse? Because as somebody who is looking into making weapon build videos, I don't want to just make the same video that someone else has made. I want to make something more unique and more my thing. The only issue is that's really hard to do when there's not many good viable options for armor or for weapon skills. So I've decided to take a look at 5 different skills that I think are criminally underpowered and feel like they should be better. And I think it's also important that if you're going to take something that is bad and say that it is bad, you either also say what is good or put forward ideas to make them better. Because just saying something is bad for the sake of it being bad doesn't really help anybody, and it doesn't spur discussion, which helps everybody. So let's get to the first skill. This skill I think actually just needs to be removed. I don't understand why it's in. It's a very niche, specific skill that really doesn't do anything. And that is Bare Thread. So Bare Thread inhibits stamina loss when you've run out of thread. My issue with this is you really should never be completely out of thread. Between the karakuri combinations and just the basic karakuri usage with every single weapon, you're either going to be at just low enough that you can't actually make anything, but just high enough that you will just not be out of it. And if you do ever end up being out of it, it's very easy to go and grab more through either your Sukumo, or if you are in a multiplayer lobby, going around and grabbing the rocks, or just taking the time to Hunter's Arm. It's not the best, and you kind of lose out on some damage, and it's a pain in the ass to actually get to the right spot. But once you're used to it, you can kind of actually get better at not only maneuvering, but just jumping on those parts from the start, so you can immediately Hunter's Arm and get back into the action. So I think Bare Thread just needs to be overhauled entirely. I think maybe something that's more enticing to kind of remain out of thread. Stamina recovery is only nice for a couple of weapons that use stamina, such as the Bladed Wagasa and the Nadachi. Hey, I wanted to take a second because I'm just now realizing I keep saying stamina recovery, and I think I actually did think it was stamina recovery instead of inhibiting stamina loss. I think most of my points still stay accurate. Hammer, it kind of gets a little bit better because they aren't losing stamina as much. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly throw this in here. Anyway, continuing on. I would say Hammer as well, but I don't think Hammer really needs stamina recovery. They just need a lot of stamina if they are going to be using aerial attacks. And even the Nadachi can get around to stamina recovery. So it just feels like an extremely useless skill that doesn't really need to exist. If it was more along the lines of increasing your damage or defense when you're out of thread, then I could start to see it kind of start playing a role. But between, like I said, all the ways to get thread during a hunt, during a fight, on top of all of the skills that will give you thread or reduce the cost of thread or manipulate how much you are spending and receiving in terms of thread, I just feel like this one kind of falls to the wayside and just isn't that great. On to skill number 2. This one, I really do think it could be better with just one simple tweak. And that is the skill Provocation. Provocation is a skill that makes Kimono notice you easier, as well as more likely to target you with attacks. Now, outside of being a experienced either Monster Hunter player or Wild Hearts player, and you understand how to deal with a Kimono attacking you non-stop, the skill is not that great. If you are in a multiplayer hunt and you trust your skills over the other player's skills, which, I mean, let's be real, I think everybody trusts their own skills more, then I guess I could kind of see it coming into play. The issue comes from, I think it just could be better. Just having a monster attack you doesn't actually help you at all unless maybe you are using the umbrella. Because then you could, get more parries and time it better, whereas if it was attacking someone else, it would be a little bit harder to get the parry. But then that also comes down to the issue that even the umbrella will lose damage uptime if they're constantly having to figure out what to do when they start running out of stamina. The monster keeps attacking them. On top of even just the other weapons having to dodge roll and iframe out of every single move, just so that the teammate that they don't trust can get some damage uptime is kind of weird to me. So I think on top of these effects happening, one of the more annoying things in any hunting game is the fact that the monsters will eventually run. And while I don't think this is inherently a bad mechanic, it allows hunters who are struggling with a fight or just were unable to find a reprieve or couldn't actually stock up as much as they wanted to for the fight or whatever ended up happening. It allows them to go out, gather, get the resources they need, or do something while they're in the middle of the hunt, and then go track down the monster. The amount of times a monster will actually run in this game varies from 0 times to about 10 times. It's ridiculous how many times they can run once they get caught in some sort of weird AI loop. And that is just extremely frustrating, especially for weapons like the staff, the umbrella, and the claw blade, because they lose their stacks, they lose their gauge, and that is where all of their damage comes from. And it is an extremely heartbreaking feeling to get all of your stacks on your staff, finally fill up your umbrella parry gauge, or finally hit a full claw onto a monster, just to have it run away and all of that be useless. It really is more frustrating and just disheartening and unmotivating to continue to hunt the monster if then it continues to do that multiple times. So I think Provocation should actually have an effect that makes it more likely that the monster will stay and fight you. It doesn't have to be like they will never run or anything, because I still think running is a a good thing in a hunt. But it really does just kind of feel bad to have nothing you can do about a monster running away, because if you use a trap, there's a chance it either isn't going to move, or you're using one of your traps, which now the more you use, the less and less it's going to actually be effective by a large margin, just to stop it from running, when as soon as it's out of the trap, it's just going to continue to run. So in my opinion, that's kind of the only way that I feel like Provocation could be tweaked to be a little bit better. I still don't think it would be amazing, but it would be just kind of nice to have every now and then if you just want the monster to stay and fight you. So then the next couple of skills that I think are really, really cool is it's a twofer, right? So it's going to be the combination between Fatal Foray and Mortality Water. And the reason I say these ones are bad is purely because there isn't enough of it. I feel like this combination could be an extremely fun and very interesting mechanic to deal with, especially if you're experienced and you're used to something such as Dereliction from Monster Hunter Rise and you're used to your health constantly draining. Being able to just capitalize off that sounds really fun. And I just really wish I could find more options for Fatal Foray, but out of every weapon that I've at least looked at, you only can get 10% of it. And personally, I don't think 10% of a damage boost is enough to justify poisoning yourself, as well as you're using a worse headgear to get the Mortality Water. So unless I'm missing something, there isn't enough options to get this combination going. So I'm really hoping that they add more in. And that's really all I have to say about this one. I just think this is a really cool design that they could capitalize off of by just adding more options and more ways to get these options. So for the fourth skill, personally, this is just my thought. I mean, I guess all of these are just my thought, but this one I'm so disappointed by, and that is Verve. Verve is a 3% boost to defense and attack at full health. Now, it's not the at full health that I really have a problem with. It's the fact that 3% boost is extremely small. It is not that much. Considering the kimono's variation of this desperation is a 7% boost to your attack, whereas sure, it would also decrease your defense by 7%, but you could get up to 30-ish% desperation, which is a 30% attack increase and a 30% defense decrease, and you still won't get one-shot by most things in the game, save for a couple of different skills that, even with Verve, you would get one-shot. So I just feel like Verve really is just too small and gets outshined by the kimono path. Now, I'm not saying the human path is bad, because the human path opens up a lot more kare combinations and everything with it, and boosts a lot of those attacks. I just feel like Verve alone, while it's on a couple of pieces, it kind of just feels negligible. Because in the long run, why not just go the kimono path and just take the straight up damage over going the human path and relying on certain conditions to be met just to get your damage. Now, I guess I could be entirely wrong on this one. I just really don't like Verve, and I feel like it needs some sort of adjustment to make it on par with Desperation. Which, again, I know Kimono and Human Paths, they're the two different. Human focuses a lot more on stamina and Karakuri creations, whereas Kimono focuses a lot more on power, and I believe it's really just power and part breaking. But there still needs to be some overlap that makes it so I don't feel like if I just want the most damage out of it, I go Kimono Path, build one armor set, and stick with that one armor set the entire time. So that brings us to the last one. And this one, I don't know how I feel. So, Savage. It gives you anywhere from +1 to, I think I've seen +6 attack, which really does just feel useless and unappealing to pick up. Whether or not it is can be determined by you or whatever you want, but to me, Savage feels so goddamn useless to the point that if you're taking it ever and it ends up in your final weapon design, you might as well roll back and try to get rid of it as soon as possible and pick literally anything else. On a hammer's big heavy swing, the actual bonus that +3 Savage gives you is around 15, give or take. I'm not good at math, I'm bad with numbers. But that's just +3 and it gives you 15, whereas something like Desperation gives you a percentile bonus, which will just immediately always be more. I feel like Savage needs to be a bigger bump to make it even worth considering. And even then, there are so many other different skills that boost up by percentage that I just feel like Savage alone needs more to it to actually be worth its weight in salt, because it is just absolutely god awful. It either just needs to have a bigger number, some form of part break or destruction or something, or possibly just some form of crit or boost or just something. It just feels lackluster and so unappealing to see that small number looking next to your final hammer that has 1109 attack or something like that, and then just say, yeah, I'm gonna boost that by 3. But those are just my thoughts on all the skills. I don't know. Out of all of the things that disappointed me about this game, the skills and the build paths are definitely one of them that I just hope I can see be changed relatively quickly, because I really do like playing this game. I really do love making builds for Hunter games. Did it all throughout Monster Hunter, Generations, World, and Rise. Did it in Dauntless, and also consumed a whole bunch of content on how to make builds and all that stuff. But then to come to this game and just feel so limited to my options in terms of actually being viable and being able to clear something in under 10 minutes, it just seems kind of rough for this game. But I have yet to make a build video, so I guess look forward to that soon, because I'm still gonna try to make something unique. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It was a lot of fun to kind of make and sit and ramble and look at all the skills. I originally planned to kind of look at every single skill and then break it down to the skills that are actually used in builds, but I just ended up running out of time, as well as not being able to find a good resource to compile all of those skills. So if you'd like to see more of this where I talk about different skills and everything, just let me know and we can turn it into like a part series and go from there. But if you enjoyed this video, please do, like, subscribe. I hate saying it, but I guess it works. I also just want to say thanks for 1,000 views on my first video. Kind of surprised that happened. If you checked it out and you enjoyed it and you liked it, thank you so much. That actually does help me out a lot, because it lets me know that people want to see what I have to say about stupid shit and ramble on for 10, 15, 30 minutes. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.